Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yeah,
Hi.
I can. So,
Can you see us?
hi, I'm sorry, I don't have my video,
Hi.
but can you tell
No
me,
worries.
is this the same for the strategic planning?
This is the strategic planning meeting, yes.
Okay, good. It looks
And we're
like
gonna
it's
get
just
started in
still
just a little
people
bit.
from diversity. Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
No, Alex is back there. He's behind. But we're gonna move the
Okay.
conversations along.
All right, cool. Thanks very much. And thanks for doing this.
Should this be the same?
It should be the same Zoom link, and Laura's in. She made it, and I heard her. So.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sorry. That gives me a little bit of an.
Yes, and let me give you you can email me. We can always continue the conversation.
You can turn your mic on, everything is set up here, so. Whenever you want to get started.
Hello, Michelle.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. Hi, my name is Alex Alberti. I am the Artistic Director of the Triangle Pride Band. And I'm excited today to talk about something that I think has really transformed our organization and made it really fantastic. Yes. The Triangle Pride Band, I talked about this in the last verse, I'm going to repeat it in the next verse, is Raleigh Durham Chapel Hill in North Carolina. That's right. Yes, we indeed. Okay. So, a little about me. I was a high school band director, and then I started getting really interested in arts nonprofits. I started volunteering with the College Music Society, with NAM, with a lot of those organizations. And so I decided to pursue graduate study, not only in music education, but also in nonprofit management. And so learning about strategic planning was really helpful when I got to take over the helm of the Triangle Pride Band as their artistic director in about 2020, like February of 2020. And then I got to be the artistic director for like a couple weeks, and then COVID. But when we were gearing back up, what was very evident was that there was a need to really formalize how we wanted this organization to function and to grow, and what we wanted to offer. So when I got to be part of this organization, we had a very small symphonic band of about 35 people, and a marching band of whoever decided to show up. And so it was, hey, who's going to rehearsal today? Okay. It was, hey, are we going to buy new shirts? I don't know, who wants to do that? So there just wasn't a lot of ownership and responsibility and direction for what we wanted to do. And so by implementing strategic planning into our organizational structure, we have now grown significantly. Our symphonic band's at 125, we have a jazz band, we have formalized marching band, we have pet band events all over the county, and we're just growing and growing every single cycle. So I'm very excited to share a lot about strategic planning with you. Okay, so what is strategic planning, especially in the context of an organization or nonprofit? So in general, a strategic plan is your organization's actionable vision. So you have an idea for where you want your organization to go, and it is on paper and it is actionable, meaning that there are milestones that are going to help you evolve to satisfy your mission. And that's really the biggest thing. You talk about nonprofits at all, your guiding star is going to be your mission. And so everything you do needs to be aligned with that. And so when you create this strategic vision, you're always looking towards that, and it helps you know that you're doing the right things. You're going to start with the end in mind. So what a vision is your idealized picture of what your best, strongest, thriving version of your organization is. And then you work backwards from that idealized future to scaffold with very measurable, actionable steps. And then you delegate responsibilities to achieve those milestones. So in general, that is your nonprofit's roadmap. You are identifying the strategies that help you advance your mission, They have measurable goals. It helps your board approve priorities, so you're not just doing whatever pops up that happens to look kind of cool. And then you revisit this on an ongoing basis. So it's not a great, we have a vision, we'll talk about it, maybe if someone mentions it again in 6 years, okay? It's an always evolving and ongoing check. Okay, so the tenets of a good strategic plan, you're gonna hear a lot of keywords throughout the whole of this. The first is that it's mission aligned. So every nonprofit has a mission that they had to like show to the community to say, this is what we're responsible for. This is what we care about. This is why we're a nonprofit. And that strategic plan helps you execute that without getting mission drift. If you've ever heard of mission drift, it's when your organization starts taking on a bunch of new things that are very tangential to what you're actually supposed to be doing. And you end up putting tons of resources and money and labor into something that actually has nothing to do with your mission. You drifted off that course. The next is that it's metric driven. So you're able to measure it and go, this past 6 months, how much of our strategic plan have we actually achieved? And if we haven't achieved it, why didn't we? So you're able to measure that, making sure there's progress. And it's milestone based. So you're setting year, month goals to make sure that there's always motion happening with the execution of your mission. Okay, so getting started. So first and foremost, I keep talking about the mission. That is what drives your nonprofit. It is why your organization exists and what you do. So the Tribal Pride met a couple years ago had a brainstorming session to start from scratch to come up with our new mission. So our mission is to be committed to providing accessible, high-quality music experiences to the community and their allies in Central North Carolina. We want to strengthen our community through sharing the love of music, social equity, arts education, queer visibility. Okay, so what are the parts of that mission? The first is the what. So what are we providing? So if someone wants to know what my nonprofit does, these are the things that it does. And also who it is for. So you are outlining that clearly in your mission. That's going to provide you a lot of direction when you're creating your programs and your actual things you're going to do. So your nonprofit mission, there's actually a little what we actually did when we did our visioning meeting. Your values are what drive what your organization does through its mission. So it's a set of guiding principles that guide your behavior and decision making. So some of the values that the Tribal Pride Band has is accommodating a range of musical abilities, providing access and success for anyone, making a safe, affirming, and inclusive environment, programming diverse and marginalized composers, engaging our audience with performances. You can see this all here. So this is going to help you, again, better clarify how your programming is going to serve your community. Okay, so once you have your mission, and once you have your values, you're going to then do what's called a SWOT analysis. And a SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so this is when your organization sits around and you begin to do just an internal scan for your organization's place internally and externally. So strengths and weaknesses, you're looking internally. So what does your program right now do well? What are your best assets and resources? And where does your organization struggle? So what resources do we still need internally? What growth needs to happen? So you're going to look internally. Then you turn your attention externally for opportunities and threats. So opportunity is what needs exist in the larger community, because as a nonprofit, your job is to fill a need in the community, right? So where does it fill a purpose? And then threats is where is there competition and are there limited resources being poached by other organizations? Once you've sat and talked about this, and again, it creates more direction for you to set your program, for you to say, here's what we're going to do to address the weaknesses and the threats. Here's how we're going to leverage our strengths and opportunities to really grow the organization. Okay, so we've kind of done the background work to kind of figure out where our organization is aligned internally. We have our mission, we have our values, we know where we're positioned. Now we have to vision. And this is going to be the start of your strategic planning process. So visioning is the process of creating a long-ranged, idealized vision of your trajectory. So you are starting with the end in mind, not next week, not like in a couple of days. I want you to think a year or more into the future. So what does your nonprofit look like? What is your band doing? How big is it? What programs does it have? What do you do on a normal basis? So you're going to sit with your board or anyone you want to invite to participate in this process, and you're going to create that idealized future. So here again, on the right side, we have an example of what we did. We did like envisioning things. We were talking about formalizing our fundraising and our financial planning, that we were going to have an annual fund, that we wanted to have a gala, right, for fundraising. So you're coming up with all these ideas for ways that you want to solve the problems you discovered in that SWOT analysis and to help you better align your programming with your mission. So you're going to create that idealized future. So some examples of these. We have an established fundraiser. We have 3 anchor ensembles. Our jazz band has a jazz quintet. Our board expands to 10 members. We have an annual budget of $50,000. These are some examples of kind of idealized milestones that you want to hit in your organization. So then you begin by creating a strategic plan 1 to 5 years in the future with things that are measurable and actionable. So some examples. The symphonic band has an active membership of 50+ musicians. The marching band has new uniforms. Our annual fund raises over $10,000. So you're going to create, these are kind of your starting points, the anchors to where you're going to base the rest of your strategic plan. And it's usually helpful to group these by committee. So like we know whose committee has responsibility to execute that goal, or by theme, or by type. So some considerations for these things. What capacity does your organization have? What do they want to strive for? Are they aligned to your mission? Are you drifting from that mission when you look at these goals? And then does it address your SWOT analysis? So now we're going to zoom in. So let's say we've created a strategic goal that by January 2025, our marching band has new uniforms. So now we're going to create, after we've made that year-plus plan, a 6-month plan. So you're going to kind of scaffold to create specific stepping stones that help you reach that. So, okay, if in a year we need new uniforms, what needs to happen 6 months from now? Okay, so we've reached out to 4 uniform vendors. $4,000 has been raised so far for those uniforms, and members have been told about uniform preferences, right? Again, those are measurable things. And so when you're creating that strategic goal, start from the top, copy and paste it, and then work your way back. So by 6 months, July of 2024, this is where we are. Then you're going to create your 1-month goals. So you're going to continue the process of iterating all those goals to create even more sub-actions. So we've talked about reaching out to 4 uniform vendors by July 2024. So in January of 2024, we need to make a spreadsheet of vendors, and we need to contact 2 other pride bands about where they got their uniforms. You see how every time we move closer to the present, we're creating more and more actionable, easy, measurable things. And that way we're always moving towards that January 2025 goal. So at this point, you have taken your strategic plan, you started with your mission, your vision, you've created your idealized vision, you've made your 1 year, you've made your 6 month, you've made your 1 month. So now we've made all of these steps. We've created a plan for the next year. Now we actually have to do the things we said we wanted to do. And this is where goal management comes into play. This is about executing your vision. And so what I'm going to be doing today is talking about how to make this actionable through how the Triangle Pride Band does it. So hashtag not sponsored, we use something called ClickUp. We actually use a free version of ClickUp. This is project management software. Again, we use a free plan. And what project management software does is it allows your organization to create tasks, subtasks, manage your goals, assign tasks, comment, collaborate, and track progress. So this is sort of that central place that you can all go to go, all right, where are we with our goals? It's not nebulous, it's not just, we talked about it one time in a board meeting, it's buried in the secretary's notes. It's somewhere we can actionably track it. Okay, so what does ClickUp do? A couple things is, let's start from kind of its highest order organization. We have what are called spaces. So spaces that we have are finances and budgeting, operations and management, events, programs, all management. What kind of sucks about the free version of ClickUp is you only get 4 spaces, but we've made it work really well. So you can make those your committees. You can make those just categorized by theme. And then you can subdivide those spaces into what are called lists. So under finances and budgeting, we have financial management and planning, and then fundraising and development. So you can be creative with how you do this. and however you choose to subdivide those things. So the next thing you could do is you click into a space, you can create tasks, subtasks, projects, and initiatives. So here, for example, one of our tasks in progress is our fall or winter gala. So we have sort of made this overarching task, and then that has been broken up into subtasks. So we have making a budget, booking Trophy, which is a brewing company, creating our theming, create a plan for, we have a bunch of things to get to that point that have come out of our strategic planning. You can also assign all of those tasks to one or multiple people. So you can see that our president, Andrew Bridget, is responsible for formalizing our ticketing, but we have a bunch of people responsible for making a budget. So you can assign several people to be responsible for something. You can also communicate the status of those tasks. So is it complete? Is it in progress? Are you stuck? Has it not been started yet? So at a glance, you can tell what those things are. And then you can also create deadlines. So you can time bind these tasks to have a set deadline, which is always nice. You want deadlines. Okay, so then in a task, so if I click into a task, I'm going to be able to see an entire running log of conversation which we've done. So oftentimes we have like a board group chat, but if we start talking about one thing, it's going to get buried and we're never going to see it again. So what I'll do is I go, hey, like, so I wanted to think about a way to do attendance in symphonic band. I said, hey, let's have a conversation here. So I sent it, and in this comment thread, we started talking about it, and it's all just saved there. You can tag people. Again, there's a deadline, there's the assignee, it's kind of. It's all here. You can create subtasks, there's tons you can do within a task. Okay, so then what's also fantastic is we can track our overarching goals from our strategic plan in ClickUp. So there's actually a goal management section. So for example, by October of 2023, we have fundraising goals, symphonic band strengthening goals, and ensemble growth strengthening goals. And you can see that there's like a percentage ticker that shows you how close we are to getting close to those things. So with the goals function, you can keep track of the pacing of those things for your organization and check in throughout the course of your operating year. You can also tie the outcome of those sub-goals. For example, we wanted to get corporate partnership, like we want to prospect. We have subtasks that we've already created in ClickUp that will, when they're complete, we'll mark that as done. So it's all tied together. So if you didn't want to use something like ClickUp, you could also use Monday, Asana, Notion, Airtable's a little more you can build it yourself. Google Sheets, if you don't want to have to worry about getting other software, but this is going to be obviously much more like labor intensive. So I really recommend ClickUp mostly with any of these. Go ahead.
If you use Google Workspace and their whole package, which are being switched,
Yeah.
they actually have.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, cool. What is it called? You know?
It's just
Cool. Google Project Management. That's also an option. If you go Google Workspace. Okay. So what I want you to remember is that strategic planning is a cycle. So once we've done all the hard work of having the meeting to vision, creating our strategic plan, building out ClickUp and spending hours putting things in ClickUp, you have to then do the things. And you have to track the things in whatever organization you choose to do that in. So you need to complete the strategic planning process probably once every 6 months, and then also check in on the progress of what you're doing at every board meeting. So what we do in the Tribal Pride Band is we literally open up ClickUp, and our board meeting is we go down ClickUp. Because we know exactly that that's what has to get done for our things to happen. And if someone says, oh, this has to get done before rehearsal, put it in ClickUp. Assign it in ClickUp, right? So we don't want to lose track of those things. We know who's responsible for doing it. So considerations. Are we meeting deadlines in accordance with our strategic plan, and do we need to adjust our timing? So you really want to make sure that the pacing of what you've said is happening, and if it's not, have a conversation about why it's not, or if things need to get pushed. Are we adding unnecessary tasks that are removing focus or effort from our mission aligned things? And are we fairly distributing labor amongst board members or committees? If one person's tagged in like 90 tasks, they might not be able to reasonably do that, right? So you can kind of see where the workload's falling. Okay, so things that you'll need to do to implement this in your board activities. So every board member will get a user account, or the leads of committees, or whoever you want. On the free version, luckily, you get like unlimited members, which is great. Create a spaces structure that reflects your organization's operations. Import all of your goals and your tasks so that you can asynchronously check on those things. Run down, click up in board meetings, have board retreats every 3 to 6 months to adjust that. We actually just did one with our board a couple of months ago, which was really fun, just to kind of sit and see how we've done. Okay, so what I want to kind of finish out with here is just showing you all around our ClickUp. So this is my instance. Is I go to goals. Here are those folders where our goals are. So here's our symphonic band goals, fundraising goals, ensemble growth goals. So in our fundraising, if I click in, we're going to see we have specific fundraising goals established in 2023. We have donor relations things established, merchandising enhancements. If you click in, you're going to see whatever task that has been aligned to. So implementing donor communication, Kathy's working on it. It's awesome. We really built out that we marked as done very soon. And you'll keep track of those throughout the course of whatever your 6-month chunk of time is. Then we go into spaces. So here is where you can have those 4 spaces on the free plan to break this apart into how you all operate. Again, it can be committees or whatever themes you want it to be. So you're going to see each of those broken into these sub lists. You can click into things to see again what the chatter has been on those. Here's where you can assign people to do things. You can assign priority and then a due date. We've seen that this is stuck, working on it, right? So at a glance, this is what we do in board is we just run down this list and see what can be assigned, what needs a due date, and it's been very, very helpful. Cool. Any questions about what I'm showing you right now? Awesome. Okay, so that's all I have to share. So I would love to sort of hear if you all have any questions or comments about the way that you all are doing things in your organization as it relates to strategic planning, or if you all have questions about anything we talked about today. Yes.
So my question is, all this is software, so it's kind of my bread and butter, but product organization is very grassroots and a lot of percent. But why would I have? What are your thoughts on how you things that it's like, hey, this is how really was really.
Yeah, so some of it was, hey, we're doing this, and they'd be like, okay.
Can you repeat the question for comment?
Yeah, so yes, absolutely. So the question was, how can we get more people on board with using a great piece of software when people are already very busy? And essentially, it's really about selling its benefits and providing training. So the first thing I did is when I made ClickUp for our board, I created a Loom video just going, here's how this works. So I did a little bit of education so that people were like, oh my gosh, I can learn something else. You just walk through what they do. Also, just so people know what they're responsible for a large number of people, the only thing they really have to do in ClickUp is make comments or update a status. So there shouldn't be anything too daunting for most people as it relates to like, oh my gosh, I gotta make tasks and create goals. Really have a champion in your organization that's kind of like the person that can help implement it. And then just make sure people are aware of like the very minor amount of things they may have to do there. So it really wasn't a big issue in at least our board. No one was really resistant to it as long as they knew what it was for. And then there was that training video in case they had questions. So that's kind of the best that I have in terms of our implementation, but yeah. Yes.
What is the learning curve for non-technical person?
It is extremely simple. So it's labor intensive. So the question, sorry, was what's the learning curve for ClickUp? It's really very simple. It's click and add a fan. It walks you through setting things up at the beginning, and there's a little bit of labor intensive things of just getting it set up. But once it's set up, it kind of runs itself. And for most people, they're not going to be doing anything more than maybe adding a comment to something or getting a status. And there's no like coding or anything weird. It's very simple things. Most project management is sort of like that. Yes.
So going back to the slide with regards to the SWOT.
Yes.
I was curious because strengths, weaknesses, and opportunity are categories where I could easily see them applying for in-project band members. Can you talk about like what you would consider as far as like That's category.
Sure. Yeah, so let's say you were in an area that had a significant number of other community wind ensembles. That would be a threat in that you need to position yourself in a way that you're going to be attractive to members. So without members, your nonprofit's not going to run. And the threat is that there's competition, right? We have in our area, we have like Triangle Wind Ensemble, we have orchestras, we have choirs, we have local jazz bands. And so like, how do we position ourselves in a way that's going to be attractive to people? And that's kind of like what a threat would be in that scenario. Or, hey, we are competing against nonprofits for like 1 or 2 arts grants, right? That would be a type of threat. Again, it's anything external to your organization. That's not about how you operate, but what resources are available now. Okay. Other questions, thoughts, comments, things people want to add about what you all do in your organizations?
For those of us who say our slides.
They sure can be. Yes, I can make them a bus. Sweet.
Was it really successful?
No, I think it was extremely successful. I think, you know, we had a board. So when I got to join as the AD for my band, we had a board that was the board for like a very, very long time, and we kind of hit a point of stagnation. There just wasn't a lot happening. Everything was very reactive versus proactive, and it was okay. What's the issue? Okay, let's fix it. And so when we were able to implement the strategic planning process in general, so not just ClickUp, but strategic planning, suddenly growth happened. We were able to better delegate responsibilities. People on the board were pulling weight, they were actually completing tasks. And that was such a huge thing. We love our board members, but people are busy. And sometimes they need that external structure of like a plan or a task or a due date just to help make things happen. And it has really significantly increased our board's productivity. And again, I think it was quite easy to implement this once we got started. Yes. Oh, yes, go ahead.
So just checking. So first, I was on board for the labels and surgeons of towns. I'm going to do this random. But with ClickUp, so one of the challenges we ran into, which is like, hey, we're doing our spring concert, right? So we have a set of processes that we know what need to happen, but like we were running into the issue of how do we onboard like this, like just flip and like templates were like, hey, here's this thing where we know how this is going to come.
Yes.
We just need a base because I was one of the things that well, for doing this thing every quarter basically in the year, like because a lot of our work is based with those for suite. So how do we transition that over? So I was wondering if there was any.
Yeah, there's templates. So if you wanted to create a task template, it will auto produce all of the subtasks for it. So if like, for example, we haven't done this yet, I'd like to, but like concert planning. So making the programs, booking the space, purchasing the music, getting things organized, making those subtasks under a parent task. If you just go ahead and build that out and then save it as a template, whenever you do concert, you just make a task from template and then we'll just auto populate. And then you can make your own due dates, just assign due dates. Yes.
I'm gonna assume the answer is yes, but I'm gonna ask it.
Go ahead. Yes.
Can it be set up to send out notifications and reminders, not just deadlines?
Yes. So there's a very robust notification system. There's a mobile app, and that's usually helpful. But here I have my listener. Well, it's clear because I've done my things, but I've done my things, right? But you have notifications. There's a really robust, look how detail oriented you can get. So there's email, mobile notification, in-app notification, desktop notification. All of these things can be checked for very specific things. So most people are not going to go in here and do this, but I mean, like I get an email every time someone makes a comment on a task. But most of the time, it's only if I either made the task or been assigned the task, so it's not going to be overlooked. But there's a very robust customization system here. Yeah. Other questions or comments?
You mentioned in the realm of strategic planning that your growth was sudden, but on like an actual time scale sort of things like weeks, months, years.
So in terms of our band program growing itself, it was about the course of a single year. So we went from having about 35 in our symphonic band to about 100 in a year. From the use of just marketing and building our programming and just better board engagement in general to execute that strategic goal. Yes.
Follow up, what was your marketing program like for Richard?
Tweet would be great about talking about that. Tweet is our communications person. But in general, it was accessing community events and having a table everywhere, because the number one thing we get told at a table is, I didn't know you guys existed. It's always, I didn't know you existed. So visibility at table events is huge. So having someone that goes to prospects those things, Reddit was really big, is finding a subreddit, posting on Reddit, hey, we're having a band program here, sign up. It was always, oh my gosh, never knew about this is awesome. But then also, in line with our mission, is explaining to people that this is for everybody. So if you have not touched your horn in 20 years, come join. If you're a pro, come join. That, I think, is just very attractive to people, and they're going to feel safe and welcome in your band, and that really, really helps. So again, all about executing your vision and mission and making that very clear to people. That's what makes people excited to be a part of what you're doing.
Hi, thanks
Hi.
so much.
Yeah.
There's all those little check marks. It seems like someone has to put them in there, right? So, I mean, how does this happen?
Yeah.
Right, is there someone managing the software and then?
Yeah, so most of these are the default settings. So I've only ever unchecked any if I was like, I don't need this. But for the most part, it's already set to be very intuitive. Like once you've started up your workspace here and click up, this is already all checked for you. Anyway, that's best practice. But if there's a very specific way that you want to be notified or not notified of something, you just gotta go and uncheck it. And that's really all you have to do is like an uncheck.
So that's for the notifications.
Yes.
And it's sort of roles and tasks. That's particular to your organization.
Correct.
Or leadership.
Yes.
Your name. So someone has to.
Yes.
set it up.
So at the beginning, you're gonna have that champion. That's the person that's gonna go, hey, after we've made that strategic plan, the champion being the person that like feels the most comfortable using the software, they'll set it up. But once your stuff has been imported, everything else is very quick. It's like, oh, I gotta make sure that I buy name placards the first person, name placards first person task, and that's as much as it is. So the setup is a little heavy, just getting everything in first. But once you've done your strategic planning in there, the rest of it's very self-sufficient or very quick. So it shouldn't be too daunting. Yes.
So along the same line, are there like different user roles? So obviously all the boards gonna have pretty much full access, but then the chair or community who's not on board, I want them to be able to see their tasks, their board, yes, it's not necessarily scary.
Correct. Yeah. So there's actually two classes of membership on like the top hierarchy. So one of those is going to be like member versus guest. So guests can go in and they can see things. So they can just look at things, but they're not necessarily going to be able to go in and like change things. But then you have admin role, which is the person that can really change or affect everything. And then just member role, and it will kind of tell you what that means. So admins can manage billing, people workspace settings, members have access to all the docs and spaces. Guests can only be added to specific folders and lists of tasks. So for example, if I had a committee responsible for fundraising, right? Sorry, this is a little bit slow right now. And I only wanted them to do fundraising things, I can add them specifically. Hey, come on. Come on, internet. Let's go. Woo.
Internet's slow in Colorado.
Yeah. I think it's the heat, you know? Yeah, I'm good, right? Yes. And then the signal has to climb that first. So under fundraising development, this is a list. I click those three dots and I can add guests through sharing of permissions. And so specific people can have access to specific lists. And you can only be added to those things. So if you don't want people seeing like your financial documents, make it a private space that only certain people get added to. Other questions? Yeah.
Adding on to that too, you can also take your members and give them certain access to different working spaces as well. So if you have people in your organization that you want certain access, that's
Access is fully customizable. Yes.
In the past, our organization has had issues where storing, strategic plans or other information for the organization on a platform, say Google, and then that gets hacked. And people are able to access everything, take everything pretty quickly. What would you, how would you talk about like the security for maybe ClickUp or some of the other project management apps? Like what types of things, like if you're in a situation, like especially for GC, where a lot of things that we're doing, luckily, we have to worry about security.
Sure.
So, you say a little bit as far as your percent security.
Sure. So first and foremost, anything here is going to be action-based, and we don't have PII on here. We don't have like rosters of people here. If there's ever anything linked like that, it's linked externally to like maybe a Google Doc that has two-factor authentication already on it. I recommend if there's probably two-factor authentication here, which I recommend implementing if that's a concern. But beyond that, I don't know. Is my answer. 2FA is what I would recommend, and just not having PII directly anything. Or like financial documents, have those externally linked. Other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
Profit management and our colleague with you here.
Love that.
So, I would just be curious, I feel like a lot of times we wind up being very good at tasking, but, not always as cognizant about what the strategic management process looks like in the room. Would you mind giving us a sense about what your strategic management process looks like when you're in the room and having the conversations, post-SWOT analysis, pre-tasking?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do board retreats where like recently, sometimes it'll just be like on Zoom. Recently we like booked a space downtown. Andrew got us like a little like Jimmy John's lunch. It was really fun. And we all kind of got together. When we first were doing our first strategic plan, we started out by doing independent brainstorming first, because what you don't want is that certain people get very vocal and excited about ideas, and that ends up dominating the space. So you kind of give everyone this task of going, all right, let's look at our mission, let's look at our vision, let's look at sort of where we are. What do you envision for the future of this organization? And so everyone takes time individually first to write down what their ideas are. And it can be anything. It could be, hey, if you're the development person in your organization, you could just do lots of development vision. And so everyone gets a moment by themselves to create those ideas and those visions. Then we come together and just sort of start putting them out there. The secretary will just take notes, and we'll take literally every single idea and we'll begin writing them down. From that point, what we do is we look at what everyone has said and we begin lumping things into categories. So this looks like a development thing. This is a programming thing. This is we start to organize all of these disparate ideas onto their kind of spaces. If you think about like plans, operations, events, programming, we'll organize all those ideas by that way. Then we begin just discussing what we're kind of seeing with our trends. So, hey, someone mentioned wanting to start an orchestra next year. That might be tough because I don't think we have a budget for our new AD yet. Let's talk about the finance piece of that first. And so naturally, as we kind of are vetting all of the ideas, the prioritizing happens, where the visioning gets more and more specific to our current needs and our current limitations. And then we begin to just filter those things until we have sort of our 1 year developed vision. So it's kind of it's a very collaborative process. We're always kind of going back to the mission and what our SWOT analysis says. We didn't really do a SWOT in trying to write it. We've done loosely what a SWOT would be. So from that point, once we have the individual input, the group input, then we begin just tasking things. I also want to add too, then every 6 months, we go back and revisit. We look at like the goals section and go, what did we get done? What didn't we get done and why? And from that point, we begin to either adjust the vision or just adjust like those end of your milestones, or we simply just go, hey, maybe this is our highest priority, and it's a slog on the side. Other thoughts, questions? Cool, please come find me. Again, my contact information is on the last slide here. Feel free to like take a picture or put in your phone, or come find me in the conference. But thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate it. What's that?
Is Alberti your real last name, or is that like a, professional?
That is my last name, yes. Are we thinking about Alberti Base?
Yes.
Yes, that's my real last name.
Is that what made you want to play music?
I didn't even know it existed until like, I was like well into high school band. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Presentation. Thank you so much. It's also tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that is.
So. Our big thing is that. You can't just kill them. I mean, about a lot of this, like my program, like I did it with Pride Band, I was like, it's just, it was like, you know, between this. That
was about as a.
Yes. It's when I think about what it's done. It just takes one hour. Thank you so much.
So, it's just another one next to you. I don't know.
You'll get there.
I'll get that. Oh, no, they're going specific. Like, and you.
Valid. Yeah.
That I like.
Yes, that is big for me. Literally, once I got sick up, I got a job, a full-time job. I was like, we're gonna do this program. Like, what? That's so it's really changed everything.
I mean, yes.
Oh, yes. We're gonna go back in. So I just opened the first file up. Or this one. Wait. Yeah, well, I did teach psychology before I left. Yes, yeah. Yeah. Oh, look at the zoom in. Okay, I'll zoom in next time.
Yeah, now, what I like to this, which is like, oh, create only more, I'm like, no. Yes. Go see. Please questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hold that next year, see you later. 3:30. 3:30. I literally finished the young now, I was there, it's like. What's my team, I was like. Oh, sorry. Oh my god. This is so much. All good. Yeah, that's good. Watching, but yeah, here it is. I think this is. Like, it's just. This is my. Ready. Yeah.
Not understand this.
Yeah.
So.